Hello, and today we'll be playing Devil's Gambit. So at the end of the last update, we saw this demon, and he gave Hector an idea or some kind of a deal, because Hector just got rejected by Kagan, the man who he really wanted to be with and was in love with. Kagan rejected Hector, so Hector was distraught over that, and the demon came and offered himself some affection to Hector, and he gave Hector, well, the demon's name is Wanskai, so Wanskai gave Hector time to think about his proposal, so we're gonna see what his decision is in this new update. So though everything became still, it never stopped, and dawn the crown Branches bathed in its parents' light and reached for the sky. Though buried out of sight, it matured, a darkness within the saddle of every man, woman, and child biding its time. Gold is to civilization as blood is to the body. The Moguls were a couple that lived in the city near Oblon. They were regular clients of my father's, or rather, Mr. Mogul was. She was a stern woman, capable of stopping me in time merely by furrowing her eyebrows. She carried herself with the conviction expected of a woman of her class, always standing tall and proud, but never to overshadow or to talk over her husband. But whenever the sun descended behind the gray clouds of early winter, or when it started showing up again to wake up the flowers after the snow melted, Mr. Mogul's frail health would betray her. Though she left a strong impression whenever she was healthy, I mostly remember her bedridden while Dad administered her elixirs. After a job well done, we would let her rest and chat with her husband downstairs over tea. Mr. Mogul was a bright-eyed merchant. He always wore a smile and knew how to act humbler than he actually was. It was easy to forget all about his status and wealth when he taught, though he still let the occasional reminder slip up, like the time he talked about a trading route he secured through some clever trick, or the story about his marriage, which really was a mutual beneficial arrangement between their families. But what stood out to me was this saying of his: gold is to civilization as blood is to the body. My naive younger self thought his words were full of vanity, but reality has proved him right, hasn't it? Because Oblon bleeds money that is now at death's door, and trying to cure it is why not even a broken heart or fear of a devil can keep me from getting out of bed. Today I have an early shift at the hospital. After all, I need to get ready for work. It's an interesting feeling. Not only do recognize demons still exist, but also one of them is after my soul. I meet him in the flesh. I barely got any sleep after. My heart kept pounding, my fur became wet and cold with sweat while my insides boiled, and every creaking floorboard in the tavern made me jump. When sleep did claim me, I drifted in and out of feverish dreams. Right now, with my hands shaking as I button my shirt, it's as if I'm still locked in that restless trance. Nothing feels real. Had I not embraced him for that moment before I looked into his eyes for the first time, not felt his claws on my nape, and not held his hand when he offered me that self goodwill, that I could pretend it was all a dream. But no, the memory of his touch is as precise as a stitching needle. Each sensation has been etched, no, burned, onto my skin. The things he said. Why did I get up today? It is truly just out of a sense of duty. It must be, Hector, because any other possibility is unspeakable, isn't it? I exit my room with a sigh and head downstairs. My head swirls with thoughts about my encounter with Wanskai, as well as questions about what I should do, and if I should tell anyone about it. But as I'm walking downstairs, gripping the handrail to keep my hands still, I see Kagan sitting at the bar. He sees flicker towards me first, then he turns to look. I know as he gets up to greet me that I won't have time to mull over my demonic encounter. Hector, good morning. Oh, good morning. Silence. The wolf stills in place a little and clears his throat. Are you well? I suppose so. I got a little sleep last night. I see, that's good. It's rare for Kagan to show up at the tavern so early unless he has business here. At first glance, that doesn't seem to be the case, so there are only so many reasons he could have to be here now. And all of them circle back to last night, right after the festival. Is it too hopeful of me to suspect he has more to say, and that any of it could lead to the result I had wished for? Kagan makes to speak, but the words slip off his tongue, leaving behind a deafening silence instead. I'm not much better off. We're just standing here, scrambling to find what to say. It's a mercy when Orwell shouts from the bar, asking if we want a table. We snap out of our paralysis for long enough to accept this offer. Still, we're both completely absorbed in our thoughts. I glance at Kagan, and although the wolf is staring at his food, I can tell he's contemplating something distant. It pulls me back to our nice streets, surrounded by darkness and the fading embers that remain from the festival. I recall Kagan choking, and how words escaped him back then as well. I still don't understand what he was trying to tell me, and why it was so difficult for him. I can only think the Duke and his expedition had made him afraid, but that doesn't sound right. Then again, this could be me idolizing him, just as when I thought spite and fire were innate parts of him. Were those ever real, or are they just an illusion of my rose-tinted memories? It's funny, a few days ago, this thought would have been outrageous, because I thought I knew Kagan almost as well as I knew myself, and that I could always tell what was going through his head and he mine. But I was mistaken. I wouldn't be this lost and confused otherwise. Have I ever seen Kagan for who he is? I'd rather not think about this now. You really should, Hector, but if you insist, perhaps you could bring up what happened last night after you two parted ways. If what the devil says is true, then he is the one behind the incidents plaguing the expedition. He's a source of harm to the people of Wanai. That is no small thing, Hector. You need to warn somebody. The question is how to do it without coming across like I'm goofing around or patently insane. Perhaps you need to be subtle, Hector, this time, genuinely. Kagan, the wolf looks almost relieved when I lift the silence hanging over us. Yes? You know, this was back before the last expedition, but I thought I saw a demon one night. I was tired of seeing things, but it gave me quite the scare. I suppose you look rattled back then, yes? Maybe I'm being too subtle. It was quite something. He had red eyes, you know, and the fur on his face was strange, sort of like a mask. Come to think of it, he might have been wearing a loincloth and an armband made of stones. That's a lot of details. Are you sure you aren't thinking of the festival dancers? I blink, dumbfounded. Oh, I suppose so. They were dressed as demons. Still, I thought I saw something that night. Maybe you saw one of them go into this forest to practice. It could be. I don't know what I expected. Kagan has always been adamant about Wanai's devils being extinct. He won't entertain any other possibility. If I had proof, I could take a direct approach and try to change his mind, but I don't. What else could I tell? Manuel? He's more likely to believe me, yes, but what he wants is proof to involve the Inquisition, where all I have to offer is an eyewitness account. At least for now, it's not a good idea. Who knows how he'll react if he finds my story dubious or useless. I'm brought back to reality when Kagan clears his throat and gets up. I'll still get going. Oh wait, I need to get to the hospital too. I'll leave you to it then. Kagan's about to turn away when I call out to him and step up to meet his gaze, though I need to look up to do so. Kagan, let's talk more later, alright? Sure thing, Hector. I really am glad you're okay. Yes, thank you. With just that, we leave the bar and go our separate ways. I huddle up out of habit, used to the battering of a nice frigid morning wind. However, that's not what happens. I've noticed a subtle change in the weather as of late, as is to be expected with summer's arrival, but today is more drastic than that. The breeze almost feels as if it's carrying with it the warmth of the leaf-burning festival's embers, though it makes me shiver. It's not out cold, but the warmth burning itself into my nerves, all the way up my spine. It's a sensation all too familiar, which I have forgotten in these 9 years. No time to reminisce now. I'm already running late. Work at the hospital is hectic, but simple. The head doctor assesses the situation, gives orders, and we carry them out like obedient worker ants. It's almost relaxing if it wasn't because it's not nearly as personal as taking care of my own patients. I prefer it. Ever since I've returned to Ranai, most of what I've been doing, stitching together wounds, fixing fractures, or applying bandages, the most use my elixir-making skills have gotten is distilling brown crown petals into painkillers. But once I enter the main ward and go to the designated bed, I realize the day will be different. A middle-aged wolf, somewhat shorter and skinnier than the festival dancers, lies on the bed, barely breathing. His fingers are rigid, stuck in the middle of a grasping motion. His eyes look onwards to nothing in particular. The small body waste in his soiled pants make it clear he's incontinent. There's some blood on one of his legs, and upon further inspection of that, 2 tiny shallow punctures. The surrounding blood has barely clotted. I put on my prismarium glasses to confirm my suspicion. The life force in his flesh is exceedingly still, but what worries me more is an irregular life force flows in his nerves, almost as if it was avoiding the flesh layer. It reminds me of the effect of some snake bites, but this is different. Somehow the flow of life force between the 2 layers is being disrupted without damaging either of them. I hear someone clearing his throat. I put away my glasses and turn around to meet the gaze of a tall yet hunched-over lion with a gray mane. He has a journal in hand. Here, doctor, sir. A dust viper bite. Have you ever treated one, Hector? I've brewed antidotes for many kinds of viper venom, but I'm not familiar with that species in particular, sir. I thought as much. It's endemic to the Eye Valley and of no interest to physicians abroad. He takes a step forward and pulls his own pair of prismarium glasses. It's a nasty thing, unpredictable too. For some victims, it ends within minutes as their flesh decays and falls from their bones. The best bet is an immediate amputation of the bitten limb. But this one, he has a guardian angel, it would seem. What's your assessment of his layers? It's almost like the venom is forming a barrier between nerves and flesh and nothing else. In isolation they seem unharmed, but the connection between them is severed. I've seen nothing like it. But if I can correct the life force flow in the nerves layer before his organs fail, he should make it through unscathed in the end. I just hope it's not too late already, even if he's not suffering from that much more lethal effect. His flesh layer being separated from the life force flow will be fatal if left alone. That is, if his hearts or lung don't stop working fast. I see. This journal should help you. It contains notes on the venom and I marked the page for you. Thank you, sir. Venom that will either paralyze you or melt your flesh off your bones. It's no surprise I only have notes to work with. It's too risky to wait to see what the effect will be, so all bites are treated with amputation when possible. Few of the victims must have reached my patient stage. Figuring out how to correct the life force flow is easier said than done, especially when I'm faced against time. There's no doubt the venom is the source of the disturbance. If only I could manipulate that property somehow will reverse the effect. I sit down and go over the journal. It's an old leather-bound notebook with some pages falling off and new ones stitched in here and there. As I skim it, I see a dozen kinds of handwriting, each adding their own discoveries, experiments, and procedures. From some heated and faded comments I find scribbled on the margins, I deduce a significant part of it was authored by a woven doctor back during Leopoldino's expedition. Concerning dust viper bites, I see the author had the same idea as me. On the next pages, I find a list of herbs, 30 or so, 20 of which were crossed out. Then comes a dozen pages detailing fixed mixtures and their results, each one with notes added by other hands speculating about why they didn't achieve their desired effect. The last page of the section describes a formulation that saved 1 in every 7 paces, 4 died as suspected, 2 minutes to move and talk again, but wanted alive for hours after the life force flow wasn't sufficiently corrected. Evidently one survived. Not good. What catches my eye, however, is the recipe. Out of the original 30 listed herbs, it uses only 4. No hypothesis is provided for why or how it worked. The notes makes it clear it was achieved through blind trial and error. 3 of them are stimulants. 1 of them is even known to have some hallucinatory effects depending on how it's prepared. However, the brewing method is inadequate. Whoever arrived at this formulation didn't know how to handle these ingredients. They must have overheated and lost their efficacy. Perhaps that's why it only worked in 1 out of 7 victims. It takes me a sample of the wolf's blood and experimenting with a few different preparations based on the recipe, but I produce results. I become hopeful when the blood sample, once mixed with the elixir, finally coagulates as it should. It's far from perfect, but he has no time to spare. I can only pray is enough. The rest of myself isn't nearly as eventful, but rather than taking it easy, I'm still thinking about the dust viper venom. Particularly about how it can have such wildly different effects. A perverse thought crosses my head then. A victim rejects having their limb amputated in hopes they'll experience a tamer effect. Within minutes, their hope is shattered when they realize they're melting, and what happens is a death too horrible to imagine. Much like everything else from the Eye Valley, it shakes me to my core, and yet when I check on the scout an hour later, I see that he's recovering. Not a single liquefied figure. He's already looking around and cracking jokes as if he was recovering from a single hangover. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Venom is just venom. I couldn't have saved the scout without the research journal the head doctor handed me, without the help of a dozen doctors who came before me and set up the stage for the future. Does that prove that, as with everything else, it can be treated with enough knowledge and research? The Iron Valley is dangerous, but most of all, it's unknown, a mystery. As soon as that mystery is solved, it becomes possible to shield oneself from its dangers. As I'm writing my formulation of reasoning in the journal, I wonder if the same couldn't be said of Wanskai, that demon. For every venom, there's an antidote. For every illness, a cure. For every mystery, an explanation. With that thought, Kakan's comment about the dancer sleep at me. Wouldn't everything about one's kind make more sense if it was a trick? Local beliefs aside, the Inquisition already investigated Wanai and deduced requests and found no demonic activity. Its biggest, most prestigious society, a demonologist and exorcist, says that there aren't demons here. Who am I to question their results? What about one's kind then? I don't have a concrete reason to point my finger at the dancers, but the men had similar physiques and outfits, so let's presume one of them broke into my room for now. I might have been confused about the disappearing door. It was dark and I was panicking, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility I just ran to the wrong place. His hooves. Again, it was dark, and I didn't get a good look at them. They could have been a trick. Some kind of elaborate footwear, maybe. You never know with performers. But everything else is much harder to explain. Him breaking into my dreams, knowing things he shouldn't, the fire from the rejection spell, and vanishing into the thin air, and the unmistakable scent of the valley. Somebody skilled in fire magic could fake the rejection spell, but I can't explain everything else. It's clear to me that Wanskai was peering into my heart. That's a demonic quality that no mortal magic can replicate. And perhaps more important, why would anyone do this? I can understand, for example, a wolf pretending to be a demon or to threaten Manuel. Maybe they do it as part of a ploy to get money out of him. So he stopped the expedition, or just because they hate him. But me, I earn no more than Manuel's other doctors. I hold no influence over the expedition. I can't think of anyone who'd hate me so much they pose as a demon to scare me. Even if somebody was holding a grudge against me, surely it would have dwindled during my absence. Dad had a history with this town. He formed deep connections here. Could he also have made an enemy, somebody with a grudge so great they still hold it to this day and are now directed it towards me? That still sounds ridiculous. Then the only explanation is that Wanskai truly is a demon, right? If so, perhaps it's time to revisit Uncle Fimar. I recall him being fairly knowledgeable about the town's myths and past. And considering the Iron Valley is a central element of Wanai's myths, he should know about it too. That could give me clues about the demons that once inhabited it. Besides, I'd like to check on Fimar. It's only been a few days since he improved enough to stop needing regular checkups, but I miss seeing him. Not to mention he might slip back into his bad habits if there's no responsible adult around. Hector. It's a little past noon by the time I knock on his door. The old wolf raises his eyebrows in surprise when he sees me. Hector, how are you doing? But as he says those candid words, he deflates and furrows his eyebrows with suspicion or perhaps just curiosity. Did I get something on me while at the hospital? Maybe a piece of melted scalp. I'm alright. Are you sure? You look like you just watched a kid getting run over by a carriage. What? I'm perfectly fine, really. The uncertainty doesn't lift from Finbar's expression at least. I sigh and shake my head. How about you, Fimar? Is everything in order? Yes, quite. I have something to show you. Come on. It seems he at least understands I don't want to talk about my mood. I suppose the demon was right. I am transparent. Inside the south, the forest is cold, and the mass of iron tools on the table has been replaced by a different chaos of paper, ink, and pens. Fimbar sits down and starts organizing the unbound parchments into a stack. What have you been up to? I did some thinking about what you told me, that I should find something to do other than smithing. That is, I figured I'd pick back up the pen and give another go to my little dream. I didn't know you used to write. Your dad never told you? but it was a long, long time ago. He must have forgotten. Finbar's fingers slowed down as his eyes drifted off to the windowsill, and for a moment I recalled how he and Dad used to talk there during days like these. Come to think of it, Dad was the one who first insisted I call him Uncle. The old man never was too fond of fixing. He preferred his dusty mandibles and tweeties. But he had a spot for my little tales. Finbar's gaze returns to his papers and his ears perk up when he finds the paper he's been looking for. I suppose you don't have the time to go over the entire manuscript, so look at this instead. The old blacksmith hands me what appears to be an outline of the story. Although the ink is recent, the paper has a faded look and a musty smell. It goes as follows. Bridget is the most beautiful wolfess in Renai, coveted by man and woman alike, and envied by Anna, the Duke's mistress. Someone of a wise and a brave wolf by the name of Conley vows to win every event in the great late games to impress the wolfess. Through my trials and rivals, he succeeds, and it's difficult to follow what happens next. Fimbar must still be working on it because a lot of the text is struck through or just stops abruptly. But the gist of it is that the Duke's envious mistress becomes involved, and then there's a barrage of twists and dangers that threaten to tear Bridget and Conley apart. This isn't what I would have expected Fimbar to write at all. So, what do you think? I admit I'm a little uncertain about the second half of the story, but the first half could be a heartwarming tale. I'm still workshopping the second half, so what do you like about the first? What will you improve? Come on, I'm all ears. Well, I'm just gonna pick this one. It feels like Conley's missing something. You have to be more specific, son. How to say this? He's an exemplary wolf, but not much else. The more interesting love interest have something that sets him apart, I think. I know there are outside the norm. Such as the king that falls in love with his slave, or a powerful spirit with his worshipper. I guess so, but I don't think that would fit for this story. How about this? Conley is an outcast infamous for being short-tempered and violent. He's very competitive, but then, where am I going with this? I think I see it. It's just a man falling hopelessly in love, showing devotion and vulnerability. I can see the appeal. Maybe him trying to impress Bridget is just to compete with the other men at first, but things can change. But things change once he falls in love with her. And the contrast between their personalities could be interesting, yes. Fimbar hunches down and furiously takes notes. I guess at least I gave him a few ideas. I look back at the windowsill where Fimbar and my dad used to talk, their backs towards me. For a moment it's as if I was a kid again. I could almost hear his voice. I wish I could stay and enjoy it for longer, but another part of me knows I have to go back to work soon. People need me. I should get to the point. Uncle Fimbar, you're knowledgeable about the town's past, yes? About as much as any other old fellow from here, I reckon. What do you want to know? Do you happen to know about the valley? The valley, eh? Not to stick my nose where it doesn't belong, but why the interest? I went there with Kaika about the time of the last expedition. It was terrifying but mystifying. That's most certainly true. Truth be told, I could only tell you some fables my father passed down to me. But you're a more scientific fellow, so I figure that's not what you're looking for. Though maybe this will interest you. The old man puts his manuscript aside, opens a drawer and produces an old book from it. As he flips through his pages, I catch glimpses of countless surgeons not too unlike the one Kaika drew to dry his clothes. One of them catches my eye, but Fimbar flips through it. He stops when he spots an all too familiar symbol. Oh, that's a symbol you put on your knuckles. The two planets. its true name is lost, but we know some of its meaning. It's the heart. It's in the core, where it also represents a vast body. A celestial body, judging from what you've been calling it. To be honest, that part is debated. If you think about it, doesn't it look like the Earth and the Moon? Wouldn't it represent our entire world then? That was one of my first thoughts, yes. But some say that it's about large bodies of water, such as the ocean. There used to be this couple that would always correct me about it whenever I said 2 planets. Alright, but what does it have to do with the valley? Here it goes. Usually this symbol has nothing to do with the valley. However, according to the men that survived Leopoldino's expedition, it was all over the place in the valley's deepest recesses. According to them, they found these large crystals with symbols carved into them. And this one appeared very often, but they were too heavy to bring back. How ominous. I wonder what it means. Who knows? Maybe it's just a word that the wolves of Old Wanai borrowed from the demons. Fimar is half joking, but he might be right. Wanskai struck me as surprisingly sociable. I suppose going as far as offering safe passage into the valley. Could they have extended that privilege to some wolves of Old Wanai? That would explain how such a cultural exchange took place. Before I forget, there's something else I want to check. Could you go a few pages back? I think I saw something. There it is. I wasn't sure when I glimpsed it earlier, but that's the symbol Wanskai wears on his belt, isn't it? Ah yes, Wanai's rune. Literally, this one is read as Wanai. Interesting. Do it refers to the town? Not quite. It can mean Wanai the town, yes, but its meaning can change depending on context. It can refer to the eyelid and to the act of protecting or concealing something. Rumor goes that this, or a rune of similar design, was once used in a now extinct tradition of woven magic too. He suddenly snaps his fingers and points at a specific passage. My eyes go wide at the sight of that word. I almost forgot, but this rune has some different readings when it refers to the town and the body part is Wanai. But when used as a verb is read as Wanskai. That's the demon's name. It takes all my power to bite back that sentence. Fimar raises an eyebrow at me. What's wrong, son? Quickly, improvise. So I got distracted and stubbed my toe. Ha, be careful, you don't want to get splintered under your claws. I cringed at the very thought. In any case, this is fascinating, but I still get going. I stayed longer than intended with the talk about your story and all. Why, don't let me keep you. And thanks again for your comments. Before I go, will you mind lending me this book, Uncle Fimar? It would make a pleasant read before bed. I don't mind. I'll see more use with you anyway. I give the book a longing look before putting it in my bag and closing it. I truly wish I could dig into whatever clues it might hold right now, but duty calls. As the old wolf sees me off, I spot a lingering trace of curiosity in his expression. He keeps his questions to himself, however, and simply watches me walk away before retreating into his sock. Did I say anything suspicious? No, it's more likely he still thinks something happened to me, which, well, is true. Hannah told Fimar about Wanskai. Would he have agreed to help me? I think so, but maybe it's for the best that I didn't. And the demon can trample all over Manuel's expedition. He would have no trouble crushing a loose-lipped badger what feeble help he could muster. I need to keep this to myself, at least until I can devise a plan. Hopefully, the key to doing just that now rests in my bag. Once the sun has set and I returned to Orwell's nest, I intended to go straight to my room to do a night-long reading session. I underestimated what the lack of sleep, alongside the hunger and fatigue from walking all over town would do to me. By the time I entered the tavern, the smell of Orwell stew and the sight of the bar stools, which might as well be cushioned with how comfortable they look, is too tilted to pass. As soon as I collapse onto a stool and let out a relieved sigh, Orwell comes to me like a moth drawn to the fire, and very eager to serve moth. Look who's here. Dinner's almost ready. Friend, is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can get you in the meantime? Just water, please. Our stew is like a panacea that slowly restores my lucidity. It doesn't help with my burning legs, but oh well. On observing my surroundings, there's no sign of Kagan being around tonight. I guess it's to be expected. Do you enjoy the food? Oh, yes, thank you. I needed that. The dragon hums a song as he gathers my bowl to add it to the pile he's making. You seem quiet tonight. Is something on your mind? I was just eager to go to my room. I got a book from my uncle about Wanai's history. I'm eager to get started on it. Your uncle, huh? I don't recall seeing another badger around town. You see a new arrival. It's not like that. He's not a blood relative. My father and him were really good friends, and I always considered him an uncle. Maybe you know him, Fimar the blacksmith. We've met, yes. Now, on your box of surprises, not only are you close to the town's peacekeeper, but you also had family here all along. Owen's tone says he cocks his lips to the side and lowers himself along with his voice. And that's not even touching on your little miracle today. Miracle? He gives a dramatic smile and pauses as if teasing me. Words going around that you saved Gerard from a dust viper bite. The witch doctors brewed some powerful antidote in his children and didn't even have to chop his leg off. That's what I heard. I knew you were a hell of a doctor since the moment I saw you, but it's nice seeing my faith proven like that. I couldn't have done it without help. The head doctor gave me this journal full of research notes from a dozen other healers. That's what allowed me to do anything at all. So humble, too. Give yourself more credit, friend. You did an incredible thing today. I didn't. Any doctor could have done it if they were in my position. Every year there's a bite or two, and it's always horrible. Last summer a boy and a girl went out to play too far, and it happened. They were only found when it was too late. And now no one will ever burst in looking for a bone saw again. Instead they'll yell for Dr. Heather's miracle cure. You have no idea how relieved I am. Mark my words, one day your name will be in one of Wanai's history books, just like the one you mentioned earlier. I figured when he heard I brew an antidote, he interpreted that as a cure for both of the venom's effects. I'm afraid I don't have the heart to burst his bubble. So instead I forced out a chuckle and a half smile. That brings me back to my first days here, back when I became enamored with this town. I wanted to learn everything about it, every piece of trivia, and constantly read every book, and now I get to witness history being made. Say, are you getting the same itch I did about learning Wanai's ins and outs? I mean, although for different reasons I do happen to be feeling nosy. Sure, actually, could you give me some guidance since you know about the town's history? Do you have any suggestions on where I can learn about it myself? Why, of course, not too long ago, His Grace opened a museum in his mansion. He's put many ancient artifacts pertinent to Wanai's history on display there. You should definitely check it out. It's a sight to behold. And there's also the priest in the temple just outside of town, too. He's a very knowledgeable fellow. Something about what Orwell just said rubs me the wrong way, but putting that discomfort outside this museum sounds dubious. I've met with clients who enjoy adorning a room or garden with exotic decorations before giving it an outrageous name and charging for admission. Some of them tried giving me a free tour as payment for my help. They never saw my face again. Anyway, I bet it's that kind of situation. Orwell was a bit more enthusiastic than most about the Duke, so he's probably echoing Mandible's exact words. Interesting, I'll pay them both a visit. From the museum, you'll want to write to his grace. He doesn't let anyone in without a reservation. His dragon picks up the pile of bowls. He hosts as though it's heavy, but his office is doing it effortlessly. Orwell returns to the kitchen and me to my room shortly after. I close the door behind me. I leave my bag on my desk and begin digging for Fimar's book. The sun just set, and I should have a few hours to go over it before I sleep. With a sigh and a bit of magic on the tip of my index finger, I light my lamp and sit on a small yet spacious bed. I flip through the book's pages until I stumble upon the benign wound again. This should be a good starting point. It was what you'd call a lazy day. After lunch, Kyle and I were hanging out in his room. I was sitting on the floor, back against the bed. The wolf had been staring at the wall from his bed for some time, changing poses ever so often, as if looking at it from the right angle would reveal a great secret to him. Right now he was on his back, letting his head hang off the edge of the mattress as he continued to stare. Kyle, do you want to read something? Huh? Nah, I don't feel like it. He rolled over, his gaze shifted to me. What's Oblong like? Oh, Oblong is great. It's smaller than Wanai, but much warmer. There are these vast pastures full of bugs and all sorts of plant life. If you stop there, close your eyes and focus, you can hear the earth breathing. Really? Are you sure it's not just the breeze? No, it's the sound of God's spirits at work, but I guess it's hard to believe it until you go there and do it yourself. Now it's silent by comparison. It's almost like the earth and spirits here are gone or hiding. If you went to my hometown, you'd notice the difference right away. Although considering that most of Wanai's stories were about demons, maybe that was for the best. What about the people here? I bet they pick on you a lot. All the other kids are afraid of Dad, so they don't. What is there to be afraid of? That ugly mustache? I punched him in the shoulder, but Karakan just laughed it off. The young wolf sighed, took a big breath, and stared to the wall again. Oblong sounds nice. I'd like to visit. Too bad it'll be gone soon. Huh? What? It won't hold on for long, right? There's barely anyone left. Give her a year or 9, and it'll look just like the ruins outside the valley. Kagan never said that. What's gotten into you? Come on, Hector. You know you want to go away too. Come on down too. In the blink of an eye, I have one knee on the bed as I grab him by the shirt and force him to face me, barely containing my rage. Stop it. My hands feel and look massive against him. My claws even whip his shirt. That doesn't deter him. His laughter keeps echoing even as he fades away to nothing. Perhaps Renai is quiet compared to Oblong, yes, but it was a mistake to assume that meant nothing supernatural was at play here. One Renai's spirits, or is he the only one? I'm not sure. Don't let you hear them. They have their ways to inform you of their presence. So as I'm once more pulled out of my dreams by the smell of flowers in full bloom, I already know that he is near. I put my ears and notice tapping and creaking, with hearts breathing on the backdrop, and now and then the sound of a page being turned. I fell around the bed to confirm that nobody else is with me, before rolling to my side to investigate the noise. The lamp is still lit. I must have fallen asleep while reading, but it's the moonlight that reveals that mask, the 2 rubies, and the purple knife tears in the hooves, which no matter how hard I look, are undoubtedly real. One's car sits at my desk, absent-mindedly flipping through the pages of Fimar's book with a half-grin. Is he amused by its contents or simply contemplative? I can't read his expression well. Also, he keeps rocking the chair back and forth with one of his hooves. It's not long before he notices me, though. He tosses the book behind him as he leans forward, slapping the chair down, and rises. Badger, at long last, you're awakened. A twisted smile forms on his face, and I reach out for the lamp, holding on to it to bash him in the head with it if he attempts to get close. The demon's arms drop, and he breaks into laughter. I take the chance to get out of bed so I'm less vulnerable, or so I hope. Either you know nothing about my kin, or even more dim-witted than I thought. Have you forgotten the rejection spell I generously granted you? I won't listen to anything you have to say, demon. Don't think I'll give up my soul to you. What happens next puzzles me. The fire in his eyes flickers as if my rejection could extinguish it. However, it only lasts an instant before a more sinister scene takes over. The glimmer of a seasoned hunter that recognizes the sort of prey he's dealing with. How many men must have rejected him in his lifetime only to kneel before him in the end? I'd be the fool to think myself untouchable. Last night he already breached my defenses, pinning me against the wall, weakened my legs, and every time he spat out venom, my heart skipped a beat. He's aware of it all. I see as much in his eyes. That's what makes him so dangerous. Fascinating. Last night you were just a nudge away from bending over and settling my deal. But then you spent a night digging around like a worm and suddenly think you have the backbone to deny me. Please stop embarrassing yourself. Is all this demon hunter make-believe your way of distracting yourself from Kagan? Don't. Leave him out of this. How could I do that when he's at the heart of it all? But I digress. I'm not here to torment you, Hitler. Not this way in any case. What do you mean then? If you want my answer to your deal, then the answer is no. I said I grant you time to consider it, and I'm keeping my word. I won't demand a definitive answer so soon. Rather, I want to show you something interesting. Follow me. Follow you? Where? Into the forest, of course. What's with the face? Don't tell me you're afraid. You trespass into my valley, but a little night stroll is too much. It's not that. Then there's no problem, no. He even snaps his fingers and disappears to thin air. I frantically look around for any sign of him. It's just I'm starting to think he's gone. There's a knock on my window. I'm hesitant to approach it. If I peek out and one sky is hanging from it, or maybe even floating mid-air, I think I'll pass out. But all I see once I gather the courage to get closer is the starry sky and the silhouettes of the trees and mountains. At least until a stone bounces off the windsill, calling my attention to the road below, the demon's two rubies, and although much harder to see, his purple ear tips greet me with a taunting look, as if saying I'm too cowardly to follow him. Damn demon. I complain as I grab the lamp and exit my room. Orwell isn't up drinking, though it must be deeper, but it must be much deeper into the night than when I caught him in the act. What would I tell him if he was still up? I doubt he'd stop me from going anywhere, actually. If I told him I needed some air, he'd take me at face value. A surprisingly warm breeze embraces me outside. One sky is nowhere to be found. He didn't think I chickened out, did he? I'm thinking about either calling out for him or simply returning to my room, when I cast a red glow in the dark, drawing a fleeting trail toward the forest. I might discover something if I follow him, right? Who knows what he'll show me? Besides, what better source of information or nice legends could there be than the mouth of the devil himself? Just don't let your guard down, Hector. And so I hold up my lantern and follow the trail. Every sound, no matter how small or distant, becomes colossal. Hungry bats skittering above the treetops, insects and frogs calling out for mates. The rustling of trees as a demon slithers ahead. Ironically, it's only now that I realize how much smaller the trees seemed compared to when I was a child. I suppose my imagination used to exaggerate the size in the dark. There aren't any less intimidating, though, as I'm constantly looking behind me, fearful that they might reach out to me with their spiny fingers. When I hear the river's flowing waters, a spark goes off in my chest, and I'm pulled back to the first time kayak I snuck out at night. That time when the wolf drank the stars themselves from the night sky. I'd be nostalgic if not for the madness of what I'm doing, following a demon to the woods. Each step I take is a choice, a conscious decision to walk further into his grasp, and I'm not backing down. As though summoned by that thought, the demon of Wanai finally shows himself. Enjoying Wanai's summer breeze. It's not as pleasant as I remember. Must be the company. Come this way. One's Kai moves aside a branch with his forearm. He looks back at me like a hunter about to spring a trap. The way he holds that delicate position is anything but threatening. Then it strikes this land, the water that flows through it. All life and death around us, it all belongs to the devil or night. He's no lord, but this land's and its people's ancient deity. This last moment of hesitation is that of a priest about to grant a revelation to a mortal. Well, go ahead. Right. The night river is just as I've been picturing it these last 9 years. Past the frame of greenery, there are rough, starlit brushstrokes flowing downstream, the water's surface rippling, shining as if jewels were resting on the riverbed. And yet, as beautiful as this all is, Wazkai's smirk is dripping with mischief and trickery. He discards his bracers on the riverbank as he steps into the starlit waters, seeking at first only his feet and calves. It hits me that the truly astonishing thing here is the demon himself and how far he's pulled me into his domain. Enough to make your heart skip a beat, eh? He walks further into the river and then brings a handful of water to cascade down over his head. The round moon shines as if it was blessing him. I thought you showed me something interesting, demon. The fire in Wazkai's eyes flickers again, only for it to shine brighter as his gaze eats up every part of me. His grin widens and I am once more reminded how transparent I am. Oh, Hector. What? How I crave to ravish you. Something between a sigh and a snarl follows those words, and then almost violently the demon undoes his buckle and lays everything bare. So focused was I on his eyes that I had completely ignored the racing erection he just set free. When I'm done with you, you won't know where I end and you begin. But not yet. He first massages his healthy balls, and God, they barely fit in my hands, before squeezing his knot and jerking himself off. My heart's about to jump out of my chest, but not just out of fear, if all the blood being pumped to my quads is to be trusted. The plentiful fluid leaking from the tip of his dick into the river is hypnotic. It's so tempted to reach down and follow his example. But don't Hector, you're like a bug tempted by a Venus flytrap. Don't fly to his maws. You seem very interested. If you think this will be enough to entice me, you're mistaken. After regaining his cool, the demon collects prey off his tip and brings it to his mouth. You require more than simple eye honey, but it was a worthwhile attempt if only to see that exquisite look of virgin frustration of yours. Bastard. But that's what you like, isn't it? Not only did you follow me out here, but you haven't kept your eyes off of me for an instant. Transparent as always, Hector. The venom with which He pronounces my name, still something in me. I cross my arms and look away. There's no need to be a stranger. Not when you're ready. Not when you already have your nose all over me. Why don't you join me? When I don't respond to his provocation, Wanskai simply goes back to washing himself in silence, but that grin doesn't leave his face for even an instant. A scheme brews in the cauldron that is his head until it overflows, not as foam or as a noxious green substance, but in the form of a question I don't at all expect. Why were you away for 9 years? Excuse me? If Kagan is so important to you, you must have wanted to see him again all this time, no? So I will return only now. The question hits me like morning light falling through the window boards and landing on my face. It disturbs a slumber I've been buried in for too many years, one I fear I might not be ready to wake up from. So I turn away from the river, from the demon, crossing my arms and gnawing on my thumb claw. Because I was busy with work, that's all. Liar. I don't believe for a second you were needed in your hometown all the time, without interruption for 9 years. You could have put time aside to visit. You don't know what you're talking about. Suddenly, I'm wrapped in a gentle embrace from behind. The wind suddenly feels too cold as my chest and back are soaked in water, but it doesn't bother me. Because alongside Wanskai's next words, no, his very breathing, comes out in a motion more intense than the heat of Fimar's forest or even the festival's bonfire, one that could set our surroundings ablaze. Then tell me. All I need to do to free myself is utter fainting, but I clench my teeth to stop myself. You won't let me escape or back down, but no matter how painful what I'm about to say might be, or how much it might feel like I'm coming apart at the seams, he'll hold me and keep me together. If I feel like my knees are about to give in, he won't let me fall. It all finally shakes me awake. I open my eyes, remember, and let everything out. I remember once, sitting across from Dad on the dining room's empty table, the pungent smell of herbs coming from him stung my nose. Wasn't used to the odor resulting from brewing elixirs back then. It wasn't the first night like that, nor would it be the last. When I asked him why we weren't eating, he sighed and shot me a serious look. Hector, to our town, money is like the lifeblood. We are another part of that same organism, he said. Eventually, I learned that the saying came from Mr. Mulgrew, but I first heard it from Dad. I didn't get it, but I could tell it didn't please him. I asked that question, so I never did again. In time, I accepted that sometimes we didn't have enough money to eat, not because he didn't earn well, but because he was giving back to the community, as he put it, because we were part of it, and so it was our responsibility. For as long as I can remember, Oblon had been a place that barely scraped by in terms of money, and it remained that way until about a year after my last visit to Wanai 9 years ago. And there I can't say for certain why he held such adoration for the town. It went beyond love for the place one grew up in. It was almost as if to him this idea of being part of something greater was a source of great pride. Or perhaps he was continuing Grandpa's legacy. Well, that's a very similar idea. That devotion would prove so great that it would lead him to give his life for the town. While Oblong needed our support every once in a while, things only spiraled out of control once to plague reached town. So many got sick and died, and the plague spread to the cattle. The local lord prohibited the afflicted towns from exporting meat, and this led to the slaughterhouse shutting down. Oblong was left to fend for itself without its primary source of income and any support from the Lord, who poured all his resources into protecting his most profitable lands. Dad worked himself to the bone trying to contain the plague, researching a cure, trying to gain an audition with the Lord to beg for help. I tried to help him in any way I could, but it was futile. Eventually he contracted it himself. It started with a fever, but within days the illness drained him of his strength. As hard as he pushed himself, he couldn't work anymore, and soon he couldn't even get out of bed and needed help even to eat. and went over his research, tried investigating myself, and sent letters to anyone I could think of that might have made progress towards a cure, to no avail. Every day he faded a little more, the intelligence drained from his eyes, replaced with pain, then by a look like he'd rather be dead, but it looked like he'd rather be dead and finally nothing. And I watched it happen every single day as I fled and took care of him. Maybe he died much earlier than I realized. I could have been taking care of a corpse for who knows how long and not realizing it either out of insanity or denial. But most likely these were just things I think to comfort myself because I would have rather he died early than to have suffered in such a horrible state for that long. At that point I became as reckless and twisting the plague as he had been. Not out of devotion, but in my case, because I just wanted it all to end. Either out of being too much of a coward to take my life, or perhaps seeking punishment for my failure. Part of me hoped the plague would take me as well. That time never came, of course, and eventually a cure was found. We got rid of that pest, but by then Oban was already itself his former self. In the few years the plague lasted, the town had lost a third of its inhabitants. The survivors attempted to rebuild Oban, but without the Lord's help, resuming work in the slaughterhouse was difficult. We didn't have cattle left, and because of the recent crisis, our neighbors had hiked up their prices beyond our reach. It took years for the slaughterhouse to function again. In the meantime, the settlers shifted their efforts to agriculture. I don't know if you're aware, but around this time, Leopoldino began selling these so-called earth helpers, artifacts meant to increase agricultural production. We needed them. We couldn't compete with the other towns otherwise, but how could we pay for them when we were already struggling in the first place? Oban's situation kept declining. People simply gave up and began to moving out. I kept giving it my support as Dad did, but no amount of money I made was enough. You asked me why I didn't return earlier. The truth is, for years, every time I woke up and went outside, it was as though I was trying to cure Dad again. That hell never ended for me. Every time somebody left, and the town became a little emptier. Every time my home, farm, or store was abandoned and fell into ruin, it was as though I was seeing him fade away. I couldn't run, didn't even dare go too far away from town. I'm one of its last lifelines, and I deserve it. I couldn't save Dad or Oban, but I didn't deserve to relive his death over and over again. Yes, that's my punishment. Punishment A. The demon raised his hand and brushed my cheek, wiping away my tears. Then we stayed still, surrounded by the sound of flowing water and my sobbing. For how long did I remain in the demon's arms? How long would be enough to make up for these last 9 years? It'll never be enough. I know Dad's face during his final days will haunt me for the rest of my life. Yet Wanskai's arms won't let me falter nor fall to my knees. I look up and our gazes meet. From below it looks as though the moon sits on his head like a crown. But of course he's the ruler of this forest in the valley beyond, and the night feels so comfortable under his warm saddle. Once my crying subsides and he gets a feel I won't fall apart the moment he lets go of me, his grip loosens up and he steps away. I hadn't noticed I had been holding on to his arm all this while. You were barely an adult, so weak, vulnerable, and small compared to the might of a plague so greater than you. Yet you still blame yourself as though you could have stopped it. You stubborn as you are, insist on bearing the guilt for your world falling apart around you. I know, but I wish I could have done something. Maybe if I had tried something different. Ridiculous. If you want to blame anybody for this tragedy, that should be the Lords who's forsaken your town. Or are you infatuated with him too, just because he gave your people a concession or two? Just like that granddaddy of yours who spent a lifetime choking on his dick. That's easy to say. You weren't there. You don't know what it was like. Answer me this. What made you finally return? I'm not asking about the maggots' money. You wanted more than just that, didn't you? I crossed my arms and averted my gaze. Kagan, I once told him if he didn't have anywhere to go, then at least he'd always have a place alongside me. I hope he reciprocated the feeling. No, that's not all of it. For years after Dad died, I still expected, hoped even, that I wasn't long for this world, so when I thought of Kagan or Renai and the happy times that we had here, I didn't see why. Another sob escapes from my chest. I didn't want to come back to this life only to die soon after, to make him suffer, to ruin what good we had by showing him what I became. But one day it dawned on me, I will not die anytime soon. I had already lost Oblon. It's still there, but it's not the home I once knew anymore. I don't know if it ever will be again, but I had another home here with Kagan. It scared me seeing how much he had changed, and I fear last night I finally lost it. Maybe it would have been better not to say anything. Any place would be home. If you be with me. For a moment, his gaze veers aside, not trying to avoid mine, but as though he's looking at something else, his next words come out with a mix of mockery and affection. You've been waiting a long time to hear that, haven't you, from Kagan? Maybe I'm not what you expected. I'm wild, terrifying, unlike anything you've ever seen. Is that not all you've ever wanted? No, I'm much more. He makes a gesture inviting me to gaze upon not only his form, but what it represents, the disruption and terror of a being that exists outside of nature as we know it, a rebellion against life itself. Kagan can't give you this, so let me do it. It's much more than what I wanted, but he's still doing what I had hoped from Kagan, from the way he talks to me, how forward and aggressive he is, especially how he made me open up about Oblon. It could all be a trick to make me lower my guard, but what would he have to gain? Last night he said he wanted to mend my heart. In the process he would feed. Perhaps that genuinely was the whole truth. He's been doing nothing but giving me all I want. Once Kai holds my shoulders, I look and looks me in the eyes. You can still have it, Hector, if you haven't given up. Despite all your fear and suspicion, you followed me out here. You didn't reject me when I held you. Can you trust me one more time, enough to find a home in me? Hector, this has to be. Will you really give me that? The fire in Wankai's arises burns true. His words, sometimes kind and sometimes spiteful, are like the caress of an old friend. He's not lying, I just can't imagine that he is. He just grins in response, and I'm truly back home. I don't notice I'm back to crying until the demon wipes the tears off my face and licks them off his fingers. Then he asks as if he hadn't just done that. What's wrong? What isn't? My hometown's on the brink of vanishing, and I might have ruined my relationship with Kagan. Today we could barely look each other in the eye, you know? And after we had such a great time at the festival, that hurt. I've been trying to ignore it, but it really hurt. And now I'm considering giving my soul to a demon. It's so absurd, I bitterly chuckle. I want to take it. Oh, how forward. I mean your deal. Are you sure? You don't need to decide now. No, I don't want to have the time to second guess myself. I don't know if I'll have the courage to take the step later. Once Kai looks at me from head to toe with a grin. He's thinking about what an obedient little morsel I turn out to be, most likely. But that in itself is a reward. After a long minute, this demon offers a glowing hand. Go ahead then, take it, and don't worry. You're making the right choice. You're meant to belong to me, Hector. My hand's shaking like the first time I grabbed the scalpel. Right. Dan had stopped me then and said to hand it to him, that I have to try again later. But no one's here to stop me now. The future I want is right before me, and after far too long, I seal it as my fate with a handsome take. One's Kai's grip tightens as the glow intensifies its advances. Is it done? Naturally. Huh. I thought it would be more dramatic, but I don't feel anything different. Oh, were you expecting to turn to my thrall? I can arrange that if you like. That's not what I said. The demon cackles as he swiftly moves behind me. In the blink of an eye, he's holding me and rests his head on my shoulder. I swallow saliva and meet those shining rubies of his. Now then, what shall I do with you? He grabs my belly and I barely hold back a moan. The demon grinds his cross against my backside, which soon turns into thrusting. Before I look down, I know damn well what's that between my legs. So I'll hold you until sunrise while I whisper insults into your ear. Maybe I'll bite you so hard it'll leave a mark so that everybody knows you've been claimed. I didn't expect you to give in here and now, so I haven't decided yet. But I promise you this, Hector, soon you'll forget everything else. I'll be your entire world. I respond with a completely incoherent attempt at a stutter. The demon chuckles and drags his tongue across my neck and cheek. Let's meet again soon, my badger. I almost stumbled face first into the riverbank when Kai lets go of me. As soon as I regain my balance, I turn around, but he's nowhere to be found, and neither are the bracelets or his loincloth. For a moment, I remain still, processing what just happened. Little by little, my quick and shallow breaths slow down, and my legs relax enough that I can allow myself to sit down. 1, maybe 2 minutes later, I pinched my arm. I felt it hurt. This is not a dream. Thank you for playing Devil's Gambit. We hope you had a great time. If you enjoyed the game, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Patrons will get access to the latest builds a month before they go public on itch.io. You will get a free key to the game once it's complete and released. The higher tiers will receive other benefits like access to work in progress, art streams, previews of the writing, and more. Supporting us would help a lot, as it would allow us to really focus on delivering the best experience possible. If you enjoyed the game but can't support us on Patreon, please consider leaving a 5-star rating on itch and following our socials. That's it for now. Hopefully you're looking forward to the next build. We know we are. Until later. Hey, so Hector's decided to take Kai's offer. So he decided to be part of Kai now. I think the demeanor of Kai is quite similar to what Kaga used to be when he was a kid. Hector loved it he missed it when Kaga would act all snarky, sarcastic, and hurl insults at him. So when he met Kaga again years later, his big giant self and just being all nice and considerate, Hector didn't like that. He liked the snarky and mean and the snarky and mean and name calling part of Kaga. He missed that part about Kaga from when he was a kid. I think usually like people would like what Kaga is now. But with Hector, he doesn't really like that. He likes the old card gun. So I think he decided to go with the demon because the demon is in a lot of ways like the old card gun, the child card gun. So the demon one's card, he's very similar to card guns as a child, and I think he himself figured that out, that was what Hector wanted, so he decided to hurl insults to his ear. But again, that's kind of like his personality, so it's not too different, or the way he acts is not too different from card gun, so basically it's not a hard thing for one's card to do, because he's really not that much different from the child version of card gun. So for him it's easy because he's kind of like a mean and all like to insult you also. So Hector managed to figure out the shape in one of the pages at the blacksmith's place, and he found a symbol. It belonged to one's kind. So I noticed that Hector didn't really think quite as much about card guns as I thought he would. I mean, yeah, he was still sad about card gun rejected him, but he spent a lot of the day focusing on helping his patients and look up more information and research. And he got to talk with his uncle. So he didn't spend the entire day with his mind on card gun. He still managed to do other stuff. So to me, that's good. I mean, you don't want to have your entire day focused on card gun. So I think that was good for Hector to focus on other things. So I wonder what the demon is going to do with Hector now that Hector has accepted his deal and has submitted himself to him. I think the demon wants something new now. I think, destroying and killing people and all that, I guess he got tired of that, and now he wants to actually love. I mean, at least that's what I guess. I'm not sure, but after being around so long, destroying and killing and, just killing those who trespass to his forest, he wants to try something new. And that is to love and to be intimate with somebody. So we'll have to see what happens. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.